Okay, moving along, next up we have Headwater Gold, actively drilling in the western U.S. The company has been trading for just under 2 years, and in that time has already brought in Newcrest as a significant partner. So here to present and talk about the story is Caleb Stroop, President and CEO. Take it away, Caleb.
Okay, thank you very much, Misha. Thanks everyone for showing up here. So happy to walk you through the Headwater Gold story and what it is we're up to in the western U.S. looking for high-grade epithermal veins. There'll be some forward-looking statements here, so please take the appropriate caution as we move through this. So I wanted to start here, this isn't something I usually do, with a bit of a problem that we're all facing in our business, and it's especially poignant for us exploration geologists because we're not doing a very good job. We're not finding enough gold as a business to keep up with production demand. I don't really know why that is. Part of that, for sure, is that there's just fewer outcropping deposits to just walk up to like an old-timer prospector and find at the surface. So clearly we need to be doing something different. There's certainly some confounding variables too on the business side and the corporate culture side. I feel less strongly about some of these big picture things, but focusing on the geoscience and how we can best use the business models that are available to us to make new discoveries has been the fundamental backbone for why we built Headwater Gold, because we think we can do it better than these other people. And we think that with exploration success, a small junior company like ours, who has a demonstrated ability to find gold, will be rewarded in the market. Majors need ounces quick to keep their production profile steady, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities there, especially on high-grade assets and especially in good jurisdictions like the western U.S. So this really was a lot of the philosophy that went into the construction of the company, which is, as Misha said, just been listed for about 1.5 years now. And we spent about 2 years privately before that assembling a big portfolio and putting together the team and the strategy. The company was started by myself. I'm a geologist, background about 50% with the major miners, 50% in the junior world. And my co-founder, Alistair Waddell, who I worked with at Kinross Gold. He ran global exploration for Kinross, one of the biggest companies in the world. We worked together and kind of had a common vision about how to proceed here. We then shortly thereafter put together a very well-known group of directors on a board, a well-rounded board, and an awesome technical team on the ground in the western U.S., specifically focused on the type of deposit I'm going to talk about in a second. So we're really well positioned at all levels to move this thing ahead, and we've got some great technical advisors as well, sort of helping us behind the scenes, including Brent here. And this is what the company looks like right now. Still about 60 million shares outstanding, market cap of about 30 million. We've just completed a financing a couple months ago. We got 4 million in the bank and just a relatively minimal warrant overhang. Until that last financing, we'd never issued a single warrant in the history of the company in about a 4-year period, which in and of itself was a bit of a milestone. And as Misha alluded to as well, we have now brought in Newcrest as a strategic equity partner, but also a partner on 4 of our 12 projects in the portfolio. So I'll talk more about that in a moment. But before we get there, without getting into the technical detail of the geology, I wanted to give a snapshot of the sort of opportunities that we see in the exploration space for making new high-grade gold discoveries. As I said, you can't just expect to go in a place like Nevada that's got hundreds of years of mining history and exploration history and stumble into a new gold vein sticking out of the surface. It's not going to happen. So there's a lot of new technologies out there that we can utilize. The only way to find a new gold vein sticking out of the surface is if we can invent a time machine. That's technology that's outside of our hands. So we focus on the toolkit of geoscience tools that we have available to us And the critical thing really, and one of the main cornerstones we built Headwater around, was this idea of one particular type of gold deposit that's very common in the Western U.S. has a great opportunity for success, primarily because it's very rare that the gold-bearing core of these kinds of deposits actually outcrops at the surface in a fully preserved system. You can see the alteration signatures and geochemical signatures at the surface, but it's often the case that there's very little gold up there. But we can use the geology to predict where the gold is going to be. And a lot of these projects have been explored in the past by previous generations that were only drilling down, say, 100 meters. And we know we need to go 200 meters to get to the gold. So there's an opportunity there for somebody to put together a good model, a good portfolio of projects, and go systematically test them. And that's what we've been doing is testing these projects at depth. We put together about a dozen projects in a portfolio privately, listed the company in 2021. We raised about $4 million in advance of that listing and came out swinging, drilled 4 projects on our own right away, and had great success right away. 2 of those 4 hit significant gold intercepts at depth, including our Katy project, where we hit a high-grade zone of about 2 meters of an ounce per ton, which is fantastic grades. And then we hit also what ultimately became the discovery hole at our Spring Peak project, which is now one of our flagships. That all happened in a tough junior mining market. We managed to sort of track with the GDXJ and our peers, but the key thing is we attracted the attention of Newcrest and entered into a big earning agreement with them. And under that agreement, we've rapidly been advancing this portfolio. This agreement with Newcrest has just been signed in August of 22. So this is still relatively new. But as you see here, this is what that has looked like for us. We tracked with the GDXJ until we announced that Newcrest deal. Continued activity under their funding led to a pretty good response as well. And especially when we announced our phase 2 follow-up drilling at Spring Peak, where we encountered multiple high-grade epithermal veins, exactly what we were looking for, proved the thesis up there. And now we're financed and sort of positioned to move forward into a very exciting year this year. So this is what the portfolio projects looks like on a map. And this is a good opportunity to discuss the business side of our strategy, what we call a hybrid exploration model. We recognize right away that all of these projects being, early stage exploration opportunities are fairly high risk. So you need to have a portfolio of projects to have any meaningful chance at success. It's a bit of a numbers game at some level, but it can be a challenge as a small junior company to finance enough exploration on all these projects. So what we did was put together this sort of hybrid model where we have some of our projects explored 100%, particularly the lower cost and lower risk ones that we'll fund ourselves, still giving our shareholders 100% upside on exploration success, but we'll bring in partners like Newcrest on a portion of the portfolio to finance exploration, minimize our capital requirements and our dilution and our financing risk all along the way. And that sort of, it really is the best of both worlds in my view, where we can kind of do it all, and it's worked out really well for us. So I'm going to walk through a couple of these projects pretty quickly. I'm going to try to leave some time for discussion and questions here on any of these things. But we'll start off with Spring Peak, which was certainly our most active project in Nevada this last year under this Newcrest deal. This is located just south of the famous historic Aurora mining district. This is something that was active from the early 1900s, produced a couple million ounces of high-grade gold. There's a famous cabin right on the north end of this that Mark Twain was supposed to have lived in for 18 months or something like that. There's a lot of Mark Twain cabins around Nevada. I don't know how many of them are real or not, but there's one of them there. But anyway, this is a very big and very well-known historic high-grade district, but we recognize a fully preserved epithermal alteration system off the south that hadn't really been explored at the right depths that I was talking about earlier. We're able to put that together and brought in Newcrest in this deal. This is a significant deal for this stage of a project. It's quite unusual. I'll walk through it a little bit here. Basically, there was a $5 million guaranteed minimum commitment that they had to spend, part of a $15 million US stage one commitment, which would allow them to earn a 51% interest in the project. If they didn't spend that 15, they don't get anything. On top of that, there's an additional $40 million US spend, so $55 million total US over 6 years to get up to 65%. And then they can take it all the way to a PFS funding additional exploration. That might be another, who knows, $100 million possibly to get up to 75. And at that point, we get a royalty as well as a 25% carried interest. So we've got 4 of these earning agreements on different projects that are very, very similar structure and are moving them along pretty rapidly here. So this is just a real quick snapshot of the success we had in that first Newcrest drill program. This was our primary target called the Disco Zone. We drilled 4 core holes into it on the thesis that there is the right environment for high-grade banded epithermal veins, exactly what we were looking for, and we hit them at depth, right basically where we predicted them. We've hit some multiple veins in this about 40-meter zone, ranging up to 1 to 2.5 meters of sort of 10 to 40 gram type material with some stuff individually up to 2 ounces per ton over a half a meter, or a little bit less in narrow veins. But this is a very, very good sign for a big high grade epithermal system that is wide open in all directions. And this will be the big focus of our ongoing drill program this year coming up. Based on that success down here at Spring Peak, we've also relatively recently announced the acquisition of another land position in the same Aurora district called LODESTAR. I don't have much to talk about here other than the fact that we're seeing very, very similar alteration in geology just on the other side of the district. It's very early days. We don't have a lot of information here, but we were able to acquire this in a very inexpensive deal with a prospector plus just staking our own claims. In the U.S., you still go out and physically pound posts in the ground and claim the mineral rights, and that's a big part of our business. So we do an awful lot of that, which is pretty neat. So one other project that I'll allude to briefly here is in northern Nevada that we'll be drilling under this similar Newcrest deal. This is just north of the famous Midas mine complex. That's another thesis that we have to de-risk the exploration potential of these early projects. It's better to be right adjacent to a well-known, proven, high-grade past-producing district. So that's a theme of ours in many of these projects. But the Midas North project is just north of Midas. That produced about 4 million ounces of gold at high grade, like about an ounce per ton gold equivalent out of these high-grade veins. It was a very famous, well-known, high cash flow project. This is now on care and maintenance, and they're looking for new mill feed to open this thing back up, and we're hoping to get out there with the drill and see what we can do here. You can find some more information on the background and technical aspects of this stuff on our website. There's a lot of stuff available. We've been putting out new geological information and targeting information every couple of months here for the last 3 or 4 months. But we'll be hitting that one hard again this year under the Newcrest funding. So before we finish, I wanted to touch really quickly on our 100% funded exploration opportunities. The big one that we'll be focused on this year is Katy. That was one of our early successes right after listing. And it's up along the Oregon-Idaho border, right up here. And we were only able to drill 2 holes in this. We were self-funding this and bootstrapping it and testing the highest priority project or targets. And we marched up to this outcrop, drilled an angled core hole underneath it, predicting that there would be high-grade gold underneath this low-grade stuff that was at the surface. And in that first hole, we hit what we were looking for. As I said, about 2 meters of about an ounce per ton in high-grade structure. So This is only one hole, early days, wide open, down dip and a long strike. Since then, we have been putting together a lot of geological information well, we know we've got this outcrop. We know we've got a drill hole. It's got high grade. It's got what we're looking for. Now we want to know which direction it goes and what sort of scale we can be expecting here. So we put together a big geochemical program to try to outline the footprint of this thing. And it looks like we've turned this one little outcrop into, say, a kilometer-long prospective zone that will be drilling all along this year, looking to expand this and turn it into something that has not just high grade, but also some size to it. So this will be very exciting coming up. And just in a broader sense, those are only a few of the things that we're up to here. So you can expect a lot of upcoming catalysts from us kicking off really basically immediately. We're starting to drill in a few weeks at Midas North and Spring Peak, followed by all these other projects as well. So we'll be drilling Midas North, Katy, Spring Peak, one other project under the Newcrest partnership along the Oregon-Idaho border. And then we've got potentially a couple more self-funded drill projects and potentially some new acquisitions that we're looking at as well. So there's going to be a lot happening and a lot of news flow and exciting results coming forward here. So I think that's the snapshot here of Headwater Gold. We're an experienced team working in a great place with a great partner in Newcrest Mining. We got this big portfolio of projects, this business model that allows us to advance these all together, resulting in upcoming catalysts basically continuously, no matter what time of year. And also with the 100% exploration, we give our shareholders additional leverage to 100% upside. That's not typical of a project generator type company. That's not what we are. But we have, that upside that a lot of people look for in these microcap stocks. So anyway, we'll take any questions if you have some from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Caleb. Well, we have it on the official schedule. Brent Cook will be leading the Q&A. So, Brent, I hand the mic over to you. I know that you have some questions that would help sort of further clarify this story.
All right. Well, thanks. I guess my curiosity is, how did you guys actually get this started? What was the thinking behind it? How much did you actually put in? How invested are you? And how much of your time do you spend on this company?
So, yeah, we started this, like I said, almost 4 years ago. And early, it was basically me and Alistair, or me putting together targets and putting in a little bit of our own money, but working for free for years. And, we're working for shares for years. And basically, we put together a big database of geological information, claim information, historical information across the Western U.S. That allowed us to come up with a lot of opportunities that potentially met our criteria, and then did a lot of field work. Went out there and evaluated these things. Maybe 1 out of 10 of them required further work, and maybe 1 out of 10 of those ended up in a project. And that took, as I say, over 2 years. And then we did subsequent financings that we all participated in at 5 cents, 7.5 cents, 15 cents, 22 cents, 35 cents, and then 36 cents was our latest. So it was kind of passing the hat around to get everything put together. We've never done a down round in the history of the company. And as I said, that early period, we never issued a warrant either.
Why do you think these were missed? I mean, people have been known about the epithermal type of coverage for decades now. Why do you think this stuff was missed by the major miners?
So, I mean, everybody has a master, and everybody's got to sell a concept and a project to somebody. And the key difference was we did not require gold at the surface using that model. So if you look at things globally, and we've all worked around the planet looking at epithermal systems and learning about famous systems all over. Not all of them, or many of them, don't have gold at the surface. So it's easier to sell that to management or investors if there is gold at the surface. So people would focus on those, leaving the big alteration cells that don't have gold open for claim staking. That's what we focused on. I view gold, when I was putting that together, I viewed a lack of gold at the surface as a positive. If it had everything else, okay, that's the reason this wasn't tested.
I can bring you lots of places with no gold.
Yeah.
So how do you
yeah, okay.
What do you actually do to get there?
So there's kind of like, I'm not a fan of cookbook type exploration at all, but there are like some big picture checklists that we have. When you go out to a system that looks like it, could have some potential, first, you need to see a big footprint of epithermal alteration. We're not looking for small things. We're looking for things that the major mining companies want to buy in a place they want to buy them. So that means an alteration cell that's like a minimum of 3 kilometers by 1 kilometer or something like that, and the right kind of epithermal alteration, high level, near surface alteration. So we know that the system is fully preserved. And then we need to see that we're very close to the top. That's another checkbox is, most of these projects have this thing called a silica sinter, which is basically like a fossilized Yellowstone type hot spring deposit that tells us we're at the very, very top of this. So that's another thing. We also look for the right kind of structural framework that will give us targets for veins at depth. And the third thing is, in some ways, a very important thing is the geochemistry. We need to see, this is very technical, but we need to see the sort of the right ratios of mercury to arsenic to antimony. Silver and gold are okay, but we don't really need them. We like to see a little bit. And then there's other things, molybdenum, thallium, selenium, all sorts of stuff like that we plug into the calculus when we're evaluating these projects. So it's not just like, go out to the desert, no gold here, this is great. There's a lot to it, and you have to. In a lot of our projects, I'd say half of our there's another 12 projects that we have actually staked and acquired that never made it through our first pass of internal work, that never saw the light of day. So it's a numbers game, as I say. You got to really go through a big portfolio of projects and narrow down to the ones where you want to spend your money.
And how far does, say, Spring Creek, 5 million from Newcrest, how far does that get you? Does that get you to where you can say, yes, we've actually got something, or no, it's time to walk away?
Yeah.
Get you?
Yeah. I mean, I think we've only spent like a little over 2 out there this last year. That was just because of time more than anything. And we're pretty close. I mean, we're nowhere onto something. And so for the next, say, $3 to $5 million, we'll be able to focus on that zone that we discovered, drill that off down dip and along strike, and put some brackets around the size and grade and significance of what that is. And I think we'll know something for sure. The bar for success for projects like Spring Peak and Midas North that are right next to historic past producing districts with mills and infrastructure and everything is much lower. Like, we're looking for 3 million ounce deposits, but if we find 500,000 or even 300,000 ounces of high grade gold, that could definitely have some value for our neighbors who are looking for mill feed for those too. So this isn't sort of an all or nothing, need to find a world-class deposit or not to monetize it. Go ahead. So in the deal, that PFS component that I mentioned is a PFS contingent on 1.5 million ounces gold equivalent. So that's a pretty good benchmark for what they view as something, a minimum that they would bring into the PFS stage. And they've got a history of operating relatively small, by major mining company standards, relatively small, high-grade deposits like this as part of their global portfolio approach of having these big low-grade bulk tonnage deposits operating with high margin, high cash flow, small deposits. So that's worked well for them in the past.
So the elephants are really
So that'll be interesting. They are exploring epithermal systems worldwide. They just signed a new deal in just a couple of weeks ago in New South Wales and Lachlan Fold Belt that was conspicuously similar to our Newcrest deal, if you look at the details. And they have the Japan Strategic Alliance operating as well. So that'll be an interesting subject to broach if and when this deal goes through with them, but we'll see. And the other thing to keep in mind from our point of view is even after this next phase of spending on the projects funded by Newcrest, they won't have earned anything. They won't have got to that 51% threshold. So it's possible, I suppose, that Newmont would come in and say, yeah, this isn't what we're doing anymore. Here you go, had all that free drilling and free exploration. Here's your projects back, which would be just fine with me.
All right, Caleb. Thank you very much. This concludes your presentation, and I'm sure you'll be around if anyone has any more questions.
Yeah, we have a booth downstairs. Anybody's interested, swing by.
Thank you.